Oh, did I not have my mic on this whole time? Wow, okay. No one heard me say hi in my stream. Sorry, guys. Okay, anyway, hi, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. End of the
Cool.
week, so chilling.
Okay, so, could you do like a quick intro for the stream and me, I guess?
Oh, sure. Okay. So, Thunderpaste from New England. I've been playing for 10 years, so I'm a pretty crazy vet. Uh, but I don't like put like a ton of time into like improving so much as just playing the game. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
a tournament like 2-2er. Um, uh, I don't know. Yeah, like
Who do you
my
play?
I play Fox. Yeah.
Okay. And like, what are your goals, you think, for like getting a lesson, or like, what are you trying to do with Melee right now?
Um. Right now I'm working a lot on being less like brain dead and neutral. I'm kind of like a button pusher. So I have like a real big problem with like patience, and like the more I've been working on like getting more patient, the better I've been doing. So uh, the problem is like when I play against players that I think are really good or players that are way better than me, I get like overwhelmed super easy and like uh, definitely resort back to like a lot of like noob stuff and stuff that just kind of gets shit on by like good players.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Uh, yeah, I'm
So,
sure.
what kind of format do you want to do for this? Do you have VODs you want me to review? Do you want to talk? Do you want to play? Like, what's up?
Oh yeah, I totally thought we were just gonna play. I'd be down to see what it's like. I'm East Coast, so I'm not sure, but I'm
Okay, we can test the ping.
sure.
Okay, what's your code?
TP 395.
T TP
Yeah, TP.
TP 395. Okay,
Yeah, what's up?
and mine is FFF 641.
Okay.
All right, let's see how the ping is. It's pretty high, but I mean, we can still play a couple and see what's up with that, or see like how it goes.
Yeah,
Is there a
for VODs, I'm
yeah?
trying to think. I don't think I have like I don't have many like stream sets recently. I've only gone to like a couple
Well, you can send
tournaments.
like Slippy files.
Yeah, that's true. Um,
Is there like a particular matchup you want to work on, or?
um, not like really.
Because I can play whatever character would help.
Falco's fine.
Okay.
I'm chill playing whatever you want to play.
Okay, so do you want to play like 3 matches and then talk about it, or I just kind of want to get a feel for like what you're trying to get out of this so that we can, make the most effective use of time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've never taken a lesson in Smash before, so I just don't really have a great grasp. But I figure like playing is probably the best.
Okay, yeah. So normally it's like sometimes we'll play and then like we can like analyze the Slippy files, or usually I'll look at VODs and then we can kind of talk about those and try to figure out like what you might want to like work on or like practice based on like analyzing the matches. So we can just play like 2 or 3 games and then talk about it.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Oops.
much to review there.
No, actually, I have some thoughts on that match, but we'll talk about it afterward. Alright, let's do one more and then we'll talk a little bit and then see if we want to play more after that or whatever. Figure it out. Oh. That would have been cool. Okay. What are your thoughts on those games? We'll go over the slippies now.
Oh. Yeah, yeah. Such a John, but anytime I have to play someone that I like know is good, and this is a big problem I have in tournament too. Like if I respect the player, they're seated higher, I know they're good, I literally choke up so hard, even if it's just friendlies. Oh my gosh, I'm sure you could tell, but like I was getting like stuck in movement, like really really hard, really really hard. Just like no reason to be nervous in the friendlies, and then I just like get frustrated that I'm like getting so stuck. So that might just be like a mental block.
Okay, so I'll respond to that first. Obviously, any thoughts you have are good, and they help me figure out like what would help you the best. So I think there's a few things that kind of tie into it, but I think part of the choking aspect of it is that you're not confident in a lot of the movements you do. A lot of the stuff is kind of like you're not okay, what's the best way to say this? It's kind of like you don't seem to trust yourself a lot with very specific spacings. And so what I notice a lot is that rather than trying to play right outside of the range of something, you'll try to give yourself like a bit of error space of like, well, I think this ends here, but I'm kind of afraid of like miscalculating slightly, so I'll give it like a bit wider of like a berth kind of. And so I noticed that a bit, and I think that it can kind of put you in passive positions a lot of times where you kind of give up control of the match. And, well, not necessarily the match, but like control of the position to your opponent. And then it leaves you kind of like on the back foot when you don't need to be. And then so a lot of times, like, I think that basically, like, if you end up in a situation where you're trying to stay safe and you're kind of, like, overestimating the range of what your opponent can do, it ends up in a spot where, like, you're kind of flinching at punches that aren't really there, and so you're, like, forced to space in a way that's... It's basically just difficult, and it kind of, like, encourages the kind of choking rather than, like if you're really comfortable with what your game plan is, then even if you're kind of choking, you can just choose one of the options in the game plan and then do it. And then a lot of times it'll at least be like some form of a mix-up. And so I feel like I could definitely feel the difference between the choking and then kind of like the not choking, where you started throwing out moves a bit more. Okay, we'll watch this, and I have a bunch of thoughts, and hopefully this will help me organize them a bit.
Sure, yeah.
But I think that was an issue where you were kind of giving up. You were kind of treating my moves as if they covered more space than they did, and you're not playing towards your punishes as much. It feels very much like you want to avoid what I'm trying to do to you more so than what you're trying to do to me.
Yeah. I think that's definitely like a big part of like one of the first things I said, where it's just like obviously like you're a pretty good player, and like I know that in my head, so then it's like I think it translates to the game like in a way that it like shouldn't for me, where it's like maybe I'm like unconsciously like giving too much like space and like respect where I don't need to sometimes.
Okay, so let's see what happens. You do this action a lot, this sort of full hop back air right here. You go for this type of back air a lot in the matches that we were playing, and I feel like this back air is pretty much universally bad as Fox, but it works really, really well versus like worse players, and so I think a lot of times it has a tendency to sort of like bury itself deep in your brain of like being kind of like a panic option kind of, or like a panic option, but you still want to like it's like a panic option where you're kind of keeping yourself safe, but you're also kind of like attacking. So it feels like really balanced, but it's like kind of like it's like a very choky action to take. And so something that would already immediately help is if you just forced yourself to never do any of these back airs, because it'll force you to do something different. So yeah, I noticed these a lot, and see, like these type of back airs, like this, you do it. What's going on? It's like my room is like slightly vibrating. It's very weird. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway.
So the second one you're talking about? Like that?
Yeah, so you do this back air right here, and this is kind of like the same thing, where it's kind of like, you're like, well, I don't really want to, like, it's kind of just, like, if what happens if you kind of turn your brain off, and you're like, I am aware that full hop is pretty safe, and back air is like, oh, if I hit their shield, you know, I can kind of back air, and I'll be so far away that I can't be, you know, grabbed or something like that. But, like, in reality, this is basically the equivalent of just kind of like up smashing in place or something, where as long as I don't get hit by it, then it's a pretty easy punish, because you're just kind of like in this vertical line here. And then also, it doesn't like gain you a lot if you hit. So something that can help a lot is sort of like best case, worst case analysis. And so it's kind of like in the worst case, I kind of space around this, and then I either like laser you into a combo, or I like dash dance around it and down air this, like on the landing. And kind of the best case is that you like, I happen to move in somehow, and you're able to like land this back air. And in that case, I'll just take a little bit of %, and you won't really be able to like follow up.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when moves are like that, or when situations are like that, where there's your best case is like not all that great, you usually want to just kind of like avoid it in general.
Okay. So like, I think that's like a very like retaliatory like option in like, would you just go for like, if I'm jumping over like Falco lasers, because I've been full hopping like Falco lasers a lot, like if I don't like power shield them, do you think just like empty landing is just better in that instance, rather than throwing out like the back air, like for example, like in that, well, I guess I didn't even jump over one, I guess I just jumped out of like shield, I think, looking at it back.
Yeah, it's kind of like so okay, so when you think about like what moves do you want to hit Falco with, a lot of times, like, you know, you want something like somebody in chat sort of pointed out that you don't do any drill grab. And drill grab is pretty much like, drill grab is kind of the big opening in this matchup that you really, really want. And a lot of times, like at higher levels of play, the matchup, I wouldn't say revolves around, but it's kind of built into the higher levels of play that like, you're gonna try to drill me a lot, and I'm gonna try to like avoid it so I don't get drill grabbed. And so you're not necessarily going to like hit a lot of drill grabs against great players, but you're going to like, you need it as a threat. So like, if you had done this same full hop that you did a second ago right here, but you weren't facing backwards like this, I would say if you end up facing backwards like this, because you like dash away shielded or whatever, it's better to just full hop to the platform and kind of like play it a little safer from that position, rather than like committing to this move that doesn't have a big payoff. But a lot of times if you're facing forward and you come down with more of like a drill here, then it's going to, even if the same like situation is here where I can kind of punish it with stuff, like even if your worst case is the same, which is that I get a big punish on you, at least your best case is that you drill shine or drill grab me and you get your own big punish, you know? So in the worst case, it's still pretty bad, but the best case is so much better that sort of the best case, worst case analysis makes it a significantly like better option to do, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, the combo. You also don't seem to like wave dash out of shield very much. I think that would honestly help quite a bit. Something small, but it keeps Fox kind of like mobile on the ground.
Definitely, when I like notice myself like getting stuck, I definitely don't like go for that as much because that's something I mess up.
So here's another example of like the back air.
Yeah.
Like right here, where it's like this is your best case, which is that you back air me,
and I get CC
and you get shined. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So let's go back a second. So just like in this situation, just like try to be facing forward more often and go for drill more often here. So I'm working towards more of like a cohesive general issue that we can work on, and I can feel it, but I'm having trouble putting it into words. So we'll just keep going over specifics until I can like phrase it better.
Yeah, no worries, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, you just get caught in your shine there. Okay. And so right here, you're going for a lot of kind of hits, but it's very chaotic, and I noticed that a bunch of times when you get into these sort of like tight situations that you're in, where especially if you have like somewhat of like a frame advantage or something like that, that you sort of like just spam moves. And it's not necessarily too bad of an idea to throw out a lot of moves when you're in like tight scramble situations or whatever, but you want to make sure that the ones you're doing are like high value. Like everything you want to do in the game needs to be like potentially high payoff. If it doesn't have a potentially high payoff or like keep you very safe, you probably just don't want to do it at all. And a lot of the actions that you do are kind of like middle payoff or like okay payoff, and a lot of those like they might feel like they keep you more safe. Like I think the idea with the back air is it feels kind of like a poke, like you're kind of poking and it feels like a good neutral, but like a lot of times it's stuff like that is just not really worth it. Like a lot of times being riskier but having a big reward is more worth it than like kind of this like middle ground of like hitting people and kind of doing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, you went for the drill there, which is good. There's that back air again. That is like probably the most obvious issue of like if you just don't do that back air at all, things would probably be nicer. Okay, this game has some interesting stuff to it, I think. So I think okay, so that was not a bad drill. That back air is bad. That back air is bad. Notice how you're not getting anything out of these.
Yeah, I think that like maybe in my head I'm just like pressured into the corner, and I'm just like feel like I don't have the room or like the confidence to like turn around, and I'm like, man, maybe I can like back air my way out of this one. Mm-hmm. But I see that it's definitely like not even good. It's just like a feeling like pressured thing.
So something that kind of helps is to recognize just how good Fox is. Where like even if you aren't confident in your own abilities, you should be confident that Fox is really, really good. So, like, there are a lot of situations where you should, like... So, there are a lot of situations in the game where you want to be very, like, responsive. Where, like, a position will come up and you want to, like, react in a way that, you know, will keep yourself safe and threaten your opponent. Those things are really good. But the other part of the game is kind of just like doing good things and knowing what things are good. Yeah. And I think that probably, based on what I've seen so far, what would help you the most is probably like paying a little bit less attention to what is actually happening on the screen and focusing a bit more on doing things that are good. Kind of like, you know, like, maybe I can't really think of a perfect example, but it's kind of like, you know, like if you are playing melee like half blind or something, like you don't because what's happening is that you see situations and you're reacting to them, but you're not reacting to them with good options. So it's kind of like if you can take your whole gameplay of like kind of like these intuitive options and like playing around these other characters and switch it more to like a style where they are playing around you, that would be a lot more beneficial for you. Because like if you can make a small list of things that are good and you sort of just do them and you don't pay too much attention to what your opponent is doing, you'll be able to beat like worse opponents. And then when you play better opponents, what happens is they're trying to do their thing and you're trying to do your thing, and then you both realize that you have to scale back your thing a little bit and like watch your opponent a bit more. But it feels like you sort of skipped those and you sort of went straight to just like paying a lot of attention and like watching your opponent for like threats. But you're seeing the game from like a very like self-centered mindset where like you are kind of the like you're the one who reacts, not your opponent. Like your opponent does things and then you sort of react to it and deal with it, and you're sort of like, if somebody's gonna choke, you know, it's gonna be you. Like you're not really thinking about like your opponent, you know, choking or missing, or so you're kind of giving your opponent the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways and not giving yourself enough credit. And I think this is because you're not focusing on the best options that your character can do. Because if you do the best options your character can do, like there's a lot of really dumb people who do pretty alright in this game. And and like everyone I say that to is like, yes, of course, like because everybody knows these dumb spacey players that somehow do pretty well, or any player, to be honest, any character. And so the reason is that a lot of times they're doing good things. And are they doing good things in a smart way? No. And that is why they get stuck at a certain point. But like doing really good things using 2 brain cells is so much stronger than doing really bad things with galaxy brain.
Yeah. So like cliff notes, like what?
Yeah, the more you respond,
like,
the better, the more it helps, by the way. So go for it.
Oh yeah. I'm just listening, trying to like take it all. So like that being said, like what do you say like are the top like 3 things, just like in this matchup, for like example, like I just want to hear like the top 3 things, like if you were to play this matchup from like Fox's side, what are like the 3 things that like a 2 IQ player should like do that are like good things, like the drill grab that was like said in chat?
Okay, yeah, drill grab is really good. Yeah. Get really good at like tech chasing and sort of like up air juggles. Okay. Let's see, get really good at, like, moving out of laser and sort of, like, shield something and then, like, wave dash out and, like, shine. And also, like, shine at a shield. I didn't really see, like, a lot of shine at a shield from you.
Yeah.
And that, like... So, basically... And also there are certain spots where, like, Nair is very good and stuff like that. Like, short hop Nair. I didn't really see a lot of that from you either, because... The impression I get is you're like, well, I'm not going to just short hop Nair in because that would be dumb. I want to be smart and react to my opponent. And then your opponent dashes towards you and you're like, oh, dash forward. Therefore, my right response is to dash back. And you kind of repeat that until you're in the corner. Then you don't know what to do. You're like, well, I can't get away anymore by going backwards. So I should get away by going up. And then you full hop. And you're like, well, now I'm stuck. And so I don't want to just land and not do anything because then I'm not providing any threat. So I might as well come down with like a spaced back air or something like that. And that is sort of like, you're not looking at it from the perspective that you are also playing Fox, who's extremely strong. And if you did just throw things out, so sort of it would help a lot. So it's kind of like what I tell people is like, you don't want to be an idiot in this game. But your opponent needs to think you might be an idiot. So, like, you need to provide this sort of threat in the way you move. A lot of times this comes from knowing your good options, because your opponent will kind of see that you're trying to set up your good options, and this creates a threat without you necessarily like committing to it. But like I didn't really get that a lot from you, where it's like you're not okay. So let's look at a few situations and try to like break it down a little bit more. Okay, so come back, invincible. Okay, combo. Let's find a spot where it's not. Okay, SD. Okay, come back, non-invincible. So, like, notice that during this whole exchange, at no point have I felt threatened that you were going to, like, suddenly nair in, or that you were, like, going really hard for, like, an approach. You do this running in, but I'm not really sure, like, what you were going for. So it's kind of, so this is kind of this thing where like you're trying to keep yourself safe, but you're trying to keep yourself safe by keeping like as much distance as possible, kind of. Like,
yeah.
So like let's say I was playing against like a really good player right here, and I whiff this grab. They would be dash dancing right here. And so when I whiff this grab, they would be able to just whiff punish it with their own grab. But you're kind of trying to like create more space, you know? And like when I like laser you right here, this laser here, you just before this laser hit, you're just giving up so much space. Like right here, there's no chance that after like this interaction, like right here, there's not a chance that like I'm right here. Let's say I'm playing like a fox who's like a lot more aggressive. Then like when I go for this laser, this like sort of jump in laser here, there's a good chance that a lot of them probably would have short hop nared me out of this laser, or done something to that effect. But against you, I never felt this as like a threat that you might be like short hop naring in here, because yeah. I'm like moving forward, and so you see me moving forward, and you're like, well, if he's moving forward, it's my job to move away. But a lot of times, if they move forward, you have to see it as like you can hit them. It's hard to get across exactly the issue. I've met a lot of people who had this problem, and I also used to have this problem when I was like newer to the game, I guess. And I think that it's like basically you have this issue that I already mentioned, where you're not doing like really strong moves that lead to combos and kills as much. And so by doing that for like an extended period of time, it's kind of like eroded away your confidence in neutral situations, which leads to sort of like these deeper issues of like you not really like engaging with situations confidently.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, you know, like if you're playing Jigglypuff, you see like H-Box just like grab wildly 8 times in place, you know? And it's kind of like, wow, how does he get the confidence to sit there doing that? And it's because when he gets the payoff, it's like so worth it, you know? Right. And so I feel like you've had a lot of situations where like you probably tried to go in, and then, you know, you maybe got a hit sometimes, but more often than not, something, you know, they happen to get a combo on you and your thing doesn't combo, and then you kind of get beat up for it, and so you're like, okay, I can't do that, you know? But like, it's...
No, I totally see that. Go on.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's very easy to become sort of like self-absorbed in this game and kind of like think about the interactions that you've had and the experiences that you've had, and sort of trying to improve from your own perspective. But a lot of times, like I just explained right here, a lot of your experiences from your 10 years of the game are lying to you. A lot of your situations that you've learned are good or bad are only that way because of some small difference in like, oh, you weren't really going for, you know, you went for the back air in that spot instead of the drill grab. So it's like if there's, it's like that spot from earlier where you landed the full hop back air. So you got the opening. You did it. You correctly outplayed the situation. But because you did the back air and got CC shined instead of getting a drill grab there, you'll sort of record that experience as like a mistake. Where the mistake was not fall hopping there, the mistake was not the spacing or the timing, the mistake was the move choice.
Right.
And so I just sort of want you to kind of like recognize that, you know, you and Mango and Leffen are all playing the same fox, and lessons you've learned from playing like only apply to the gameplay that you have used so far and not to the game as a whole, if that makes sense. And sort of,
yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
It feels like like no, I totally understand what you're saying. The next like thing in my head then becomes like, oh man, I have to like unlearn like a lot of this like muscle memory and like stuff that is kind of like autopilot when I get into game and I like freeze up or I get like nervous. So it's like it's a lot to like unlearn, but I see what you're
Okay,
saying.
so
I
okay, I have a good response for that, I think. So it's not actually a lot to unlearn. It's when you specifically learn certain things, they will replace other things.
Yeah.
So when you get a big reward, and that's why I think going for... So something that might help you is sort of looking at the match as you are going to try to hit the biggest combo you possibly can. And what can your opponent do to avoid that? And I want you to sort of take that perspective when you play and sort of just work on one little thing at a time. So like work on like, I am going to try really hard to get a running shine tech chase on this person and into like a grab, into a combo as many times as possible, and I'll see how they can prevent it. Because when you start getting these more big combo situations, it really only takes a couple times for, you know, for your brain to recognize that something much better than before has happened. And so it's not as complicated or difficult to unlearn this stuff as you would think. And so something interesting is that like when you have a lot of experience, like you have a lot of this playtime experience, and I've mentioned how the playtime experience can at times teach you the wrong lessons and kind of hold you back. Yeah. And it's very common when people sort of have this revelation that they kind of feel like, oh, so you're telling me that, you know, my years of training are kind of like wasted, you know? But that's not actually how it works. A lot of times what I've noticed is that the experience is kind of like waiting there to be correctly processed. And so when somebody corrects these elements to their gameplay and starts, you know, playing the game in a more effective way, then a lot of times they can kind of reevaluate their old experiences, even subconsciously, and kind of like reapply them quickly. And so all this playtime you've put in over the years, when you improve your perspective on the game currently, you'll do things and suddenly you'll be like, oh, hey, that's that one situation that used to bother me all the time, and now I can do this there. And a lot of those experiences will still come back to like help you. So I just don't want you to look at it that like now you have to like grind out a whole new game, you know? Yeah. Once you fix these things, your experiences will be effective again.
No, totally. I crouch canceled for the first time this year, and you know, that was pretty crazy. Just
nice.
Just kidding, but you know.
I mean, I barely CC. It's something I struggle with, so I never. When people say they don't really CC, I'm like not surprised. Like I find it difficult.
Yeah, it just like the majority of my playing was like probably in the first like four or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 14 and like going to tournaments with like Crush when he was like a kid, and like that wasn't even like close to the meta then, so it took like literally like 4 or 5 years to like start even seeing crouch cancel back then. That was like 2012 ish.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, so crazy. But anyways,
yeah. And any thoughts you have also just add a lot to it. So feel free to say whatever.
Had a very rough game at the right ledge this game, but I don't think I was really playing great. Ugh.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely see myself like just giving you like way too much space, very like passively. I think that
Mm-hmm.
I've been burned so much for being like because I love just like shuffle naring and stuff
Mm-hmm.
and like shuffle aerials, and so I've been burned for that so many times that I just like am like, okay, now I'm gonna play against a good player. Like whatever you do, don't like shuffle or else they'll just like delete a stock because that's
Right, right.
like happened so many times.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, your goal, when you're playing somebody who's better than you, and you know that they're better than you at the game, the best thing you can do is stick to your game plan and have a good game plan and stick with it. And I guess technically you are sticking to your game plan because you're not going for the nair, but if you know the nair is good,
It's a bad game plan. Yeah,
right,
but
it's kind of just a bad
bad
game
game
plan.
plan.
But
Okay.
like, so at least you know to stick to your game plan. Like you're saying, I don't want to do these bad things against a good player. But the thing
Yeah.
is like, the things you do should be good, pretty much against everybody. And then what the good players do is they show you holes in your current game plan that you can fix.
Right.
Um, hmm.
Sense.
I'm really trying to think through of like what I can give you that I feel like would be like the absolute most effective thing to sort of go from where you're at right now. Because I feel like while I've kind of said a lot of relevant stuff, it's not very focused so far. I feel like if I was you and I came away from this lesson, I would feel sort of overwhelmed or like it was kind of like vague. And so I'm really trying to figure out like what I would want you to do as sort of like training after this. Okay, give me 1 sec to think about it.
All good.
Okay. Um so and I've sort of said little bits and pieces of this throughout the lesson, but so what I want you to do is regardless of which matchup you're playing, I want you to come up with like 3 things as an example. I think 3 is a pretty good number.
Sure.
So I want you to come up with like 3 openings, rather whether you watch like a VOD to find it, or you're just thinking about it, or you've done it before and it seems like a really good opening. Think of like 3 openings that you really want to land on any character that you happen to be playing against, and give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, so think of 3 openings that you really want to land on whatever character you're playing against, and I want you to try to play the game and just try to land those pretty aggressively. Like, I don't want you to just spam them, but like,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't do any sort of other spacing moves or anything. Just focus on those, and I want you to like, all of your movement should go towards setting up those 3 things.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I think that'll help you a lot because it'll sort of keep things manageable in terms of complexity, and it'll sort of get you away from doing a lot of these kind of like maybe sort of like overly passive options, or like options that don't really like get you a lot. If you're going for kind of like some drill stuff here. Okay, let's check out this next game.
Sure.
And so yeah, like I said, like sometimes people have like a sort of like a really easy diagnosis of like what to work on. And this is just very interesting, and I think it comes from the amount of like years that you've had experiences with the game, where it's like it's kind of complicated, where if somebody's playing for like 1 year, a lot of times they have very clear strengths and very clear weaknesses. But like for you, it's more like I'm like, oh, this is an issue he has, and then I'll like watch, and then like 30 seconds later you'll kind of like not have that same issue because like the situation was slightly different. But I think this is still So like this was like an example of like this is really good. You know, you didn't do anything wrong here. You whiff punish this, then you get this drill into the shine, get the up smash here. Like that's good. Like that's good stuff.
Just late.
But there's a lot of this like double jump drill onto the platform, and it's like, what is this really, you know, accomplishing?
Right.
And I also think doing something which is basically either going in immediately or going in after like one beat of not going in, I think would help you a lot too. Because a lot of times when we're in these interactions like this, what I was doing in some of these spots was I was kind of giving you an opportunity to approach me, and I was just kind of like waiting and seeing what you would do. And a lot of times there wasn't anything. You were more sort of just kind of there, and there wasn't like this feeling of you trying to like push in.
No, I felt those like moments in game two, and I could like tell that you were just like kind of like feeling it out. So then, I don't know, like I don't really remember like what my response is to that, but I probably like I was pretty much like in full mental like freak out mode for these.
I feel you. I feel you.
Like if you can even like imagine my like frustration to have these like mental problems after like 10 years of playing, it's just, like
I super feel you.
Like, yeah, I think it just comes from like just like a lot of like lack of like confidence.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's been small things that have led to this sort of like erosion of the confidence over time. So like here, like notice this situation. So you're in the corner and you successfully get around me here, and I land here. You get this position. So this was good by you. You know, maybe there's something you could have done that was slightly more optimal, whatever, but it doesn't matter. This is good. You avoided my down air and you hop down. You threaten sort of like this, like by just sort of being on this spot on the platform, you threaten kind of like a drop back air here or a drop whatever here. And so I usually just shield here or dash dance, so I'm kind of avoiding it. So you get in that position, which is like a very advantageous position. And when I am in this position as Falco, I should feel kind of scared. Because I should feel like, okay, I'm at 0, he might try to run in and do like a running shine or like a nair shine, so I don't really want to jump. But if I kind of just hang out here, I might get like pressured or grabbed or something like that. And like, I don't really have a lot of good options to get out of the corner. Maybe Fox is kind of waiting here for my roll or whatever. And you're just kind of like, I don't want to play you. Like, I look at all this, like, this is so much space, you know?
Yeah. Literally the first thing I do is just give up, like, the advantageous.
So you get this, and you get this power shield. I get hit with this, and now I'm right here. So this would seem to be, like, a situation that's, like this is not, I would say this is slightly Fox favored because I'm more like off center. So you still have the center here. So like if I'm here and like let's say this is Mango's Fox, okay? My thought is how do I stop him from instantly nairing in and crushing me? Yeah. This is like the idea here is like he's gonna run in and he's gonna try to nair me, and so even if he doesn't, he might, and so I need to be spending, like, what I might do here is I might dash in shield to try to block the nair, or I might dash back laser to try to, like, stop the nair from coming out, because I need to, like, protect myself from this, you know? And as Falco, I don't want to get hit by a random nair here and start a combo. I don't want Fox to, you know, I try to jump in laser and Fox dash JC shines me here, or whatever. I don't really want these things to happen, and this edge of the platform is also really annoying where Fox can kind of like full hop and then he can either like drop through or he can like land or wave land off this side of the platform. So like you have a lot of options here, and usually my goal here is to kind of keep myself safe. I sort of mess up and throw this laser over on this direction, but it doesn't matter because you're just like, I gotta get away, and it's like there's no reason. And so it's like you took this position here where I'm shielding in the corner and you're right here, and without any interaction, without me doing anything to you, you're here and you're shielding and you're in the corner, and you still dash back. You end up here where you're like this, you know, and I kind of just gave up the space because I want to see what you can do here, but there's just like this feeling of like you're kind of like getting slowly crushed, you know, but you're like a mime and you're just standing in the street like it's crushing me, and people are like, what's crushing you, you know?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, so like let's say in this spot there's just, so you do this because you're invincible, so you're like, oh yeah, I'm throwing out a move, and then as soon as you're not invincible, you're like, I gotta get out of here. So I'm just kind of walking in, and this whole time here, I'm vulnerable. You know, you could be throwing something out to hurt me, but you're kind of just like avoiding me, and then, you know, eventually you get hit out of that. And so if you, like, we watch it at like full speed, there's a lot of like passivity there, you know, and you want to make sure that there's at least like a threat. And so that's why I want you to be like thinking a lot harder about your own setups and a lot less about avoiding what your opponent is throwing at you.
Yeah. No, I get that. Ugh.
And a lot of times if you're kind of going for your own stuff and you're being very active and trying to like do things, your opponent, they can't just focus on doing their things, because they have to worry about what you're doing.
Right, yeah,
and so these situations that you're in where you feel very pressured, a lot of the times that whole feeling comes from the fact that you are not pressuring them at all. So then they, and you know, it doesn't really happen against me, but it'll happen against, you know, a lot worse opponents where like when they feel you're playing passive, they just start getting all confident, like, oh, he's running from me, huh? Like, I must be pretty dangerous, you know? And then they start playing better and all this stuff that you don't want. You want the other player to, like, you know that feeling you have where you feel kind of pressured and you feel kind of cornered and you feel like your options are kind of disappearing, you know? I want you to do that to them.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that says that you have to be the one who feels that way. They could be the one that feels that way every time.
Yeah, I definitely probably do that to some players, like especially like if I'm playing good and have like a lot of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there's like some people that say that's how playing against me feels. It's pretty painful to watch this and like see how I'm like actually playing in these situations. I can't believe like it's weird to like watch it back and like not realize that it was like a conscious decision in game. Like to see the decisions that are made, it's like really crazy.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I think when you're playing against someone, like you said, you feel really confident. It's very easy when somebody's not really like fighting back too much.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling, like the feeling of like, you know, hitting a punching bag, you can feel like really tough. But when somebody else is standing there and they're gonna try to hit you back, it's a lot more difficult to feel just like you're just super tough, you know, because they're trying to hit you back. And so it's kind of like a mental wrestling match of like, you better be scared of me. It's like, no, you better be scared of me, you know? So you might start out and you're like, all right, I feel confident, let's go. And the match starts and somebody, you know, perfectly does some situation and like 0 deaths you out of it. You need to be able to maintain the confidence that like, they still need to be afraid of me. I am going to continue doing my stuff and not get sort of like intimidated by that. Like it's kind of, it's better to go down fighting and be playing super active and like doing your plan than to sort of let them win that mental battle and kind of, you know, they go, and then you kind of, you know, you like flinch at that. You don't want that feeling ever. You always want, even if you're down 3 stocks to 1 and you're at high percent, you know, like let's say you were playing some really good player, like let's say you're playing Leffen, you personally, and you're up 3 stocks to 1 game 5, you would feel this feeling coming from Leffen that like somehow he's about to come back, like he's just gonna turn it up and you're not gonna be able to hit him and he's gonna like kill you, right? You want to create that feeling for yourself. And it's not just a feeling, because it comes from a confidence of, like, it's very easy to imagine Leffen getting a hit, or Mango hitting you, or Zane hitting you, and 0 deathing you 3 times in a row.
Right.
But if you can't visualize yourself doing that, you'll never be able to, like, do it. And so a lot of times it's sort of like a step-by-step process of, like, building your confidence by knowing that your options are good, by knowing that you can take 3 stocks without getting hit, so that when you're in that situation and you're out and, you know, and your opponent is up 3 stocks to 1, they can feel that kind of coming off of you in terms of like your movement and your options, that like this guy is still in the fight. Like he still believes that he can 0-death me 3 times, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that.
So I think a lot of it is going to be a process of building confidence, and I think a lot of that is going to come from getting the high value openings. And so that is my idea for you, basically, is that I want you to be building up this confidence and sort of like recognize that like because a situation goes wrong, any little element of that could be wrong. It's not something to avoid in the future.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think as you get these better openings and you build up some confidence, a lot of your experiences will sort of come back and help you out a lot more. And you'll be able to get to a point where, like, you know, your experiences go towards, you know, being able to, like, read an opponent. Just by playing the game for a long time, you sort of automatically probably have a better ability to, like, read your opponent than somebody who's, you know, a year in. And that's what experience is useful for. And so once you know, hit really hard and you know you can read people, I think it'll bring in the confidence a lot more. And then, you know, like, when you're like, if I can hit this spacing perfectly and I drill him, it's over. Then, you know, it makes it a lot easier to try to space just barely outside of Falco's down air. Because you're like, or get really close to your opponent and, like, shield. Because you're like, we both know, both you and me know that I can hurt you. And so therefore, even though I'm standing in front of your face dash dancing, you know, you're not going to feel that I'm being, like, passive. And so I think, like, once you have that feeling of, like, my openings are good, then when you're in somebody's face, you're like, yo, am I going to hit you? Am I going to hit you? Rather than thinking, like, are they going to hit me? Are they going to hit me? You know?
Yeah.
So, okay, final thoughts. What are your thoughts? We have like 2 minutes left. So,
no, I think that's really helpful. I think like focusing on 3 things. That's something that like I've done a little bit in the past, but like haven't really done like too seriously. Like I'll go into like certain matchups and be like. For example, like Sheik, I'll go into Sheik matchups and think like, just drill and like hold down as much as I can, and like try and make it like a subconscious thing where it's like, if I start like panicking or like, freaking out, then like at least I'll have like the game plan of like drilling and holding down. But if I like made it a little more like comprehensive, and more like, honestly, I like the thought of like just turning that into like being combo oriented, where it's like not just like one small thing, but like being like, okay, this is like my like combo, like three like combo paths, or like 3 combo openings on like Falco. I definitely, because like, I mean, I have like thousands of like game hours. Like I know what to do like when I get like a shine on like Falco or like some other character. So it's just like a matter of like getting there effectively. I think that's like a pretty good idea.
Okay, sick. Yeah, so I hope this helped you. It was fun talking, and I hope you have a good one. So
yeah, thank you, man. Thank you very much.
No problem. Later.